Hello folks, and welcome to the second edition of Artist Talk videos I'm going to share with you as part of Global Music Match program. In this video I'm going to interview Scottish singer-songwriter KIM EDGAR, whose sound is absolutely beautiful. Check it out.
When I could see you, everything was fine. Now you are hidden, I'm waiting for a sign.
So where are you now? Are you in Edinburgh?
That's right, yeah, I'm in Edinburgh, so the capital of Scotland.
I did a little check that if I would start to walk to Edinburgh right now from where I am, it would be 2,626 kilometers, and it would take me roughly 438 hours to get to Edinburgh.
Aye, you better start now then.
What's your relationship to Scottish tradition?
My mum's family were actually from Ireland, and I grew up hearing a lot of Irish songs and stories as a child. And I would say I wasn't, probably until primary school, I wasn't really aware so much of the Scottish folk tradition, but we were very much schooled in the works of Robert Burns from age 5. And I became fascinated with Robert Burns as a songwriter and song collector. And I would say he's been a huge influence on me as a songwriter. I think especially my Granny and Grandpa Jones just sang all the time naturally. My mum is a very keen singer, so I have been surrounded by singing, and my dad was just an avid listener and you know, really passionate about listening to music, listening to records on a Sunday. So I think through all of that, yeah, I was kind of surrounded by music and song growing up. And
what's your relationship to guitar playing? That's also something that interests me, because
well, I would, to be honest, there was this thing in the 70s. My mum and dad were living in California. Ooh. And there was this idea that you should play music to your child in the womb. So when I was in my mummy's tummy, they were playing me Mozart. And I did come out, like crawl out looking for a piano. And I was lucky enough that there was a piano in our family home, which was in Scotland by the time I was born. So I was desperate to learn to play the piano. And as soon as my hands were big enough, that's the instrument that I was lucky enough to get lessons in. But through my local church group, I learned like folk guitar lessons for free every week, which was amazing. And I learned the flute there as well. So that was really cool, but I didn't really progress that much beyond strumming about 4 chords, I would say. And then I think I heard somebody talking about Edgrad tuning, and I quite like the sound of that, and you don't need to use quite so many fingers on the fretboard at the same time for that. But also I don't really know what I'm doing with Edgrad. So what's quite nice for me is when I write on the piano, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's kind of influenced by all the classical music that I've ever played. Whereas when I'm on the guitar and I'm in Edgrad, which is what I do now, kind of generally finger picking, I don't really know what I'm playing. So I really have to listen and go, oh, I think that sounds nice. I'm not sure about that. So it kind of disarms my music theory head, because I've never properly being conscious of what I'm doing there. So really that's I would say it's a very tentative connection with the guitar, but I love it. But I definitely, you know, speaking to somebody like you who's so amazing on the guitar, I feel very much like still a complete beginner. So.
Oh well, your picking skills are really, yeah, they're solid, I think.
Oh, thanks.
That's really interesting, because like my relationship to Edgrad is basically that when I tried to use it a couple of times, and it just, I couldn't wrap my head around the tuning. Like you said, that I just basically like didn't quite know what I was doing, so I just ditched the whole idea and stayed in the standard tuning. But that's really nice that you are able to turn that idea also around, so that you really don't necessarily need to theoretically know what you're doing, as long as you feel it, and as long as you especially hear that you are making something that you like and your ear says that this is like good music?
Yeah, I mean I think that's for me. It's been a way into much more playing by ear rather than I've been so used to playing from notation for piano music. So it's refreshing, and I also try that on other instruments like the piano accordion. Sometimes I try to write on that because I went for beginner lessons, and obviously the right hand is kind of like the piano. So, but you can't see it, and I'm so used to seeing it in front of me. And then the left hand is like a complete mystery of trying to think in fourths, and so that's also really good fun for writing, I find, because
Yeah.
unexpected things happen.
Are you up to playing some tunes now at this point?
I would be, yes.
Very
I
nice.
wonder, do you have the game Scissors, Paper, Stone in Finland?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Then that does a lot of the explaining for me. The song's called Scissors, Paper, Stone.
Right.
Um, there was a girl that I sort of knew. She was like a friend of a friend, and she was in a really unhealthy relationship. And if I had known her better, I would have said, you know, you really need to get out of that relationship. But because I didn't know her well enough, I thought I'll write a song and maybe she'll hear it.
Right.
And she didn't hear it, but she did get out of the relationship, I'm pleased to say. So, Scissors, Paper, Stone.
Go for it.
Once you were strong like a stone, so he smothered you, keeping you safe, secluded alone, wrapping you up. He carefully covered you, scissors, paper, stone. You were incisive and bright, so he blunted you, couldn't accept that you shone on your own. He's playing a game that you'll never win, scissors, paper, stone. And I know you're frightened to leave him. He's made you believe you can't cope on your own. He's playing a game that you'll never win, scissors, paper, stone. And the game goes round and round, and the game goes round and round, and the game goes round and round. And now you are paper, but what will you write? Who will you tell when he cuts you to shreds? What will you do when he orders his dinner and plates start to smash once the baby's in bed? I know you're frightened to leave him. He's made you believe you can't cope on your own. He's playing a game that you'll never win, scissors, paper, stone.
What comes to your music, I kind of hear quite a lot film scores also influence, film score influence, and like theater music influence maybe.
Yeah, I think that would be really fair. I got like completely hooked on musical theatre when I was about 8. I went to see Cats by Andrew Lloyd Webber, and
Right.
loved it, like obsessively loved it, and went to see it. And I think now I've seen it about 13 times. But you know, I really wanted to run away and join a musical theatre. I think at that point,
Nice.
and I've been fascinated by musicals ever since, really. And I also love yeah, film soundtracks and scores, particularly the work of Ennio Morricone. I just,
Ah, mm,
music of the film The Mission, for example, I could
right.
listen to that all day, every day. Gorgeous stuff.
Your stories are really one of a kind, I think. And I read some of your reviews also, and they also say, many of your reviews said that say that you are really one of a kind storyteller. So what's your relationship to stories in making music?
My mum is the ultimate storyteller. I really, and I think I've been grown up being told stories, and I've been fascinated with books from an early age. I mean, children's books for me are just incredible, but the world you can get lost in as a child and then as you grow up through books, for me is just something incredibly special. I was actually remembering only yesterday that in my primary school, I think I was quite isolated at primary school. And my head teacher used to invite me into the head teacher's office at lunchtime so that I didn't need to go out into the playground, and she would let me read aloud to her books that she found for me. And I was just thinking, what a generous thing for her to do that. I was fascinated by books, but I think quite a lot of that was to do with I was frightened of people. It seemed like a safe world to go into. And as I say, in my family, storytelling's been a really big thing, and my mum's just an amazing storyteller. They're very long, the stories, and usually very funny. And then I took that love forward, I suppose. I studied English language and literature at university, and again, just delved into worlds that I would have never otherwise discovered through that. So I do hold a great fascination with story, and I suppose my main hope is that, and I suppose that's for me where I haven't come to music thinking about instrumental stuff. I found as a teenager that the words, it was Tori Amos. Just when I had started high school, I discovered her music through a friend, and I felt like her words were really speaking to me. They made a lot of sense to me at that time in my life, and still do, in fact. So there was a connection that I felt that came through words, and I think for me that at that point, that's when I decided that was something I wanted to do as well, to try and connect with people through stories, to try and find ways of reaching out to people, because I find that quite difficult in normal life. Just I'm quite shy as a person, so for me it's a great way of putting my thoughts together and sharing them with other people, and it's quite a safe way to do it, because usually when you do that in a concert, people listen and then they clap at the end, so that feels like a really lovely way to get to say something.
So you said that you are gonna release a new album.
Yes.
Ooh, how does that feel like?
I'm really excited about it, actually. It felt very strange. Sadly, my dad died just after I released and toured my last album, and I found it really hard after that, in grief, to write anything at all. I felt like all my words were completely gone, and then all my words were just about grief. And actually, a friend of mine said, "Do you know what? Maybe you just need to write down all that grief until until you've got all of that out." So I started to do that, and but still was feeling very unsure about the album generally, and it should have been recorded in April, and I was aiming for a September. September the 4th should have been the launch. And I still was feeling hugely uncertain, because I have had so few words, and actually I've written lots of songs that have very few words, because that's just how I have been feeling. But I started to, then with the delays through lockdown and not being able to record, I actually started looking again at some pieces and what I was going to put on the album, and I really wanted to write something, to create something in an album that that kind of reached out to people, because I was feeling it was so difficult when you weren't able to touch, and still, like, I can't give my mum a hug. It's so hard to be physically distant from people, and I wanted to try and make an album that would feel like a hug, that would feel like connecting and encouraging. So although most of the songs I began writing them for myself, I started to see how I could make an album of songs that would hopefully acknowledge that life is tricky for lots of people for lots of reasons, but also like give a sense of solidarity and connection and encouragement. So I'm really excited now, because I feel like I've manage to work towards something that feels positive. And yet it's been, I think I've been so grateful when it was been possible to go to a recording studio, you know, which for some time it was impossible, and that people have gone out of their way. There's another couple of songwriters who I absolutely love from Scotland, Kareem Polwart and Rachel Sermani, and I've been lucky enough to work with them both in the past, and they recorded remotely so that we could make 3-part harmony songs that I wanted to create this sense of connection. So it was just like a lot of people giving a lot of generosity through a difficult time. And for me, that's made something really special. So I'm going to be super excited to share it with people. Yeah, that's the really exciting bit, I think, is once you've kind of made your music or your songs, that they make their own journey in the world. And sometimes you're lucky enough to find out where they go and what they do, but it's just a fascinating thing. And I feel so privileged to get to do that. For a way of life, you know, to get to do that and watch what happens with songs, it's a wonderful thing.
Hey, Kim, it's been so nice to talk to you. It was really
And
lovely conversation, and I really hope that we can meet someday in Scotland, and or
come to
maybe in
Scotland.
Finland.
I'd love to come to Finland. Never been. I would absolutely love to see Finland. Like, let's do it, man.
Yeah,
Exchange trip.
yeah, and exchange playing. Great. Take care.
Thanks. Take care. Bye bye.